Welcome back to Smashing Heads Podcast. This is going to be our recap for the Challenge USA Episode 6. My name's Zach, and I'm joined by only my wife, Hannah.
Hey.
Because, if you haven't yet, we released the final podcast with Jake. Those type of podcasts are usually over on patreon.com/smashingheadspodcast, but because it was the final kind of send-off one with Jake, we ended
Before we killed him.
Yeah, we ended up putting it on the main feed. So I hope you've gone and listened to that. It's a long one. It's about 2 hours, and
he had a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we're still friends. Like we talk to him all the time. Like he's not out of our lives. It's he's just not on the show anymore.
We talk to his spirit all the time because that's the only way that anybody can contact him anymore.
So
before we killed him,
this is later than what we planned on, but we also knew we were going to be releasing that throughout the week, so there was going to be something coming up on the feed. It's just that there's been a lot of things that have happened in the last week for us, just personally. With a lot, like Hannah's sister got engaged, so we had to go down to see them and celebrate that. And then Hannah's been kind of sick the last 2 days or so, and so
it's been like the last week.
So
really, the last 2 days have been awful.
Took a COVID test today. She's not got COVID, which is good, but
I just feel bad.
Yeah, we just pushed recording for a couple of different. One was the engagement party thing, and then just because she hasn't felt good. So it is Monday. It's later than we meant to, but again, we put something up on the main feed, so we hope that you all have listened to that because it's a lot of fun, and also definitely ends in a direction that none of us were expecting. And
I forgot.
So there's a fun surprise for you at the end of the podcast. You'll know what you hear when you get to it. So definitely check that out. And also, if you're not part of our Patreon, we have open enrollment, I guess, for our fantasy football league for this season, which Jake is still the commissioner of. Because if you listened before, he loves drafts and everything to do with that. So
they make him feel some type of way.
Yeah, he's been the commissioner since we started it, so he's going to keep doing it, even though he's not on the show anymore. But those signups are open, and they will be closing probably within the next week because we have to kind of get a final count of everyone who's involved. It's for anyone free agent or bloodlines level on Patreon, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't yet, because we're going to be doing that, and we're going to be drafting. It's a little bit up in the air right now because the season starts September 8th, and there's a good possibility that Hannah and I will be on the road that day, and Jake also gets married September 10th. So we typically wait to
9th.
Is it 9th?
It's the 9th.
I thought it was the 10th.
It's a Friday.
Oh, I thought it was the Saturday.
It's the 9th.
Anyway, we initially thought, we initially plan on drafting like the very last week of preseason, but because we both are going to probably have so much stuff going on, it may end up being a week or so earlier, just because we can't wait until the week of the season starting, just because we're going to have way too much stuff going on. So, again, get in on that patreon.com/SmashingHeads podcast if you're interested in that, and we will be doing that very soon, and he will be commissioning all that. We do a PPR league, if you're familiar with that. It's a lot of fun, so check that out. Beyond that, just follow us on social media, at Twitter. I'm not at Twitter, but at Smashing Heads on Twitter, at Smashing Heads Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. I've been really bad about forgetting to plug those at the top of the shows recently, just because, I don't know, I haven't thought about it for whatever reason, but we've got to get more, I guess. I haven't followed any of the new people on the shows. I've got to do that, but I've been trying to stay off because, like, today we recorded so late in the week. I don't want to see, like, spoiler type stuff. And so I have to mute our Patreon Slack group and all that too, just so I don't get spoiled for anything when we're a couple days behind. You know there's only 2 of us here.
I know.
Yeah, and you're not really contributing.
Well, I'm kind of out of it.
Yeah, I can tell.
Like, I was going back through my notes, and there were things that I typed in my notes, and I was like, I don't remember doing this.
To be clear, you've only had ibuprofen. You've not had any medication.
No, but I'm telling you, I feel very bad.
Yeah,
I have felt very bad for a few days.
But this one is not a medication-based
No,
it's
thing. Not medically based. I think it's sickly based. My mind is... I don't remember writing some of this stuff.
Well, for anyone listening, we freshly just watched the episode and came upstairs to immediately record. So everything that she's written has been within the last hour.
Yeah, and I don't remember a lot of it.
Maybe you need to go to the hospital because you have brain damage.
Well, we live across the street from the hospital.
Yeah, it's good proximity. If you started walking, you'd probably be there in like 2 minutes.
Give me 10.
Okay. We have been watching the show Alone on Netflix. We've not watched any of the other seasons because apparently it's on History Channel, and we just didn't really know about it. But season 8 is on Netflix, and so we've been watching that.
I had never heard of it until last night because you were like, hey, I started watching this show and it's really good. And so like you just made me watch the first 2 episodes with you last night.
Which I had already seen.
But within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the first episode, I remember looking at you and being like, oh, my dad would freaking love this show. And so I texted him and I was like, hey, have you ever heard of this show? And he texted me back immediately and was like, I freaking love that show.
Yeah, he's already watched the whole season on Netflix.
So we've got to watch the season so that he texted me again and was like, I really wish I had somebody to watch it with me because I have commentary and nobody's around to listen.
Well, we're only 3 episodes in right now, so we've got a little while to go.
But he has a lot of thoughts that he wants to share with us because nobody else in the house
that's fine.
will watch it with him.
I've got some thoughts on some of the people so far. I do like the premise of it. I have a couple production questions which are bugging me, but I'm sure I can figure that out some way. Like, they are alone, but those, how are their cameras, the GoPros and all that, and like even the big cameras, like how are they staying charged? Like they have to film all the time.
They may have given them extra like batteries and or like portable chargers. I don't know. I didn't realize that was your question. That's my
question for sure.
My main question, which I've asked you several times and you've not given me an answer, probably because you're not part of production. My main question is they are out in remote forest with grizzly bears everywhere. Like almost every single person, like 3 episodes in, almost every single person on the cast has had a close encounter with a grizzly bear up
within like 20 or 30 yards
at this point. And they're not given any kind of rifle or pistol or no guns at all. The only thing they're given is an old school bow and arrow. And we saw in this last episode a bear bomb.
First of all, not what it's called. You called that earlier. It's a bear banger. But that's not all. They have bear spray too.
Okay, bear spray. Yeah. But they not really anything to...
It's not a bomb. It's basically a flare that makes noise to just scare them away. You're not bombing anything.
Bear bomb sounds better. My question is, what happens if one of these people gets eaten by a bear?
Then the show would not see the light of day. I can fully guarantee you.
You don't think they would just edit out that person or just not include that person's camera stuff?
That would absolutely shut down production, and they would not air any of the stuff because it's too gruesome. I still haven't watched Grizzly Man.
I didn't think they would air any of it.
Do you know what Grizzly Man is?
Yes. My question is, one, they've got to find where these people are. Like,
I can guarantee you they have closer monitoring on them than what they let on.
Well, they say they're a 20-minute boat ride away across the lake.
I get that, but just for like legal reasons and medical, like emergency reasons and stuff. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but they have to somehow be monitoring somewhat. And now again, it goes back to my thing of batteries. They have, because they don't have generators, they don't have solar stuff, because otherwise they would use that for all kinds of things. So my only thing that I can think of is either one, they gave them like, hey, we've done the math and it's gonna take, but they're trying to stay out there like 100+ days. No amount of, they would have to give them like 300 batteries, like individual batteries to make that, and with the weather and stuff, I that would affect the longevity of the charge and stuff. So I have a feeling that they do some sort of drops every couple days or something, where they're just like, we're gonna drop, even if they don't have any contact, like they're like, hey, we left, like, hey, make sure you come back to where the boat was every 3 days. There'll be a box there with more batteries and stuff, because there's not a production crew out there.
Yeah.
And so they have to be like, and also like you can't film 100 days in HD on one camera. Like you have to have.
Well, they're each given, like they're given a GoPro and a handheld camera and a trail cam, and then they're given one that does like specifically nighttime filming. But
that's what I'm saying. Like again, I work in the area of video, even at the lowest frame rates of HD footage, which is all shot in HD. You're gonna run out, like even with the biggest SD cards you have, and even if they were using like external drives and stuff like that, which you can't on the GoPros. Like there's got to be some sort of like, hey, we dropped off everything we've done so far, and we're gonna get. I'm just interested to find that side out, because they can't. It's not The Office, and he just has a camera out there and he's pretending to be Survivor Man or whatever. Like they're trying to stay out there like 100 and something days.
And they have to make their own shelter. They're given a tarp, and
well, you get to pick like X amount of things, and a tarp is what most people pick.
But like they have to. Most of these people are like building log cabins.
Yeah,
with their bare hands.
I looked up their supply list because I was interested in what all you could bring and whatnot. Because a lot of them bring like folding saws and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very interesting. I would never want to do it, especially in grizzly country.
So you think if they do like a drop every 3 or 4 days? Like at the exact spot that the boat dropped them off. So
that's just hypothetical.
Okay, so hypothetically, if that's how they do it, they would know someone has died or is in danger if they made a drop and then they come back 3 or 4 days later and the box, the last drop is still in that same spot.
I mean, the whole conceit of the show is that you're alone and
you have no communication with the outside world.
It's as much of a psychological thing as it is like a starvation physical thing. Because like on Survivor and stuff, it's kind of a segue. You're at least in a community, and so like you've got people to talk. You're not isolated. Like that's what drives people crazy in solitary confinement, is just because you're not, as a human. You're, even me, someone who's very like introverted. You need physical and like just talking. Like you need to interact with other humans, or at least a dog or something, and they don't have that. And so that's a big part of it, is like the psychological, like, oh, I'm missing all of my family and all that stuff. So the only time you have a visitor of like you hear something moving around nearby, it's either a grizzly bear that's going to eat you, or it's a mountain lion that's going to eat you. And so that's the thing, is like the conceit of the show is that like you are alone. And so if they're coming up on like a boat or a helicopter or anything like every couple of days, like, hey, we got you some more cameras, that defeats the like psychological. So I think if they drop supplies, which I would assume they have to, just as far as camera equipment, it's got to be like they literally drop, and even they may even do like helicopter drops or something like that. And then I don't know, but they can't have any sort of interaction, because that kind of defeats it. I mean, it's a TV show at the end of the day, so even all reality shows, including The Challenge, there's some things that happen behind the scenes that I still am very skeptical of the algorithm aspect of the show. But like again with Alone, great idea. I'm just very curious to find out how they keep 10 people to be able to film with 4+ cameras at all times. The trail cameras make sense, because those things, the battery in them, they last forever, because they're not shooting in crate, and they don't store anywhere. They go to like cloud storage, I think. So you're not storing them locally. And then they may have some sort of like cloud storage with some of this footage, but I don't think that works with I don't know. I'm going to look into it, because I'm very curious about it. Because it has been bugging me every episode. I'm like, they're on day 12, and I was like, especially those big cameras, they cannot film for 12 days on their own. Especially how much they have to film, because they're if you don't film what you're doing, there's no footage for the show, so they have to basically film anytime they want to talk or do a task or build a house or go fishing or anything. They got to do all that or go walking. So I don't know. I think a lot about that type of stuff that most people probably don't, but it's just how my brain works. Probably just because I know the production side of things and how much storage and battery capacity and things like that take. So it is a good show, though. I like it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like watching how much ingenuity some of these people have.
And they do it. The producers and the editors and stuff do a good job with basically it's found footage. Essentially, they basically are taking footage that these non-professionals have filmed and then splicing a narrative together out of it. Mm-hmm. And it works pretty well. But yeah, there's some wild people on there. Some
weird people.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good show though. It's season 8's on Netflix. It's free to watch. I'd recommend it. They're all about an hour long. Without commercials, they're about an hour long. So I don't know how that works on History Channel, but it is a good show. Do you want to get into episode 6?
I think we should keep talking about the Alone show.
I mean, I like it.
Algorithm.
I had to take a drink of water.
The algorithm is not really an algorithm. I think someone in production is just pairing people up because
Ben and Sarah
were the second pairing.
Agreed.
That my very first note for the episode. Ben and Sarah get partnered up together. No way this is random.
Yeah, Ben and Sarah, after all the aligning that they've talked about with each other, and then the line in the sand kind of with Tyson throwing her in and all that, and then they just randomly are paired together the next day. That seems a little suspect. And then
but I think because of that, there was a chain reaction that then led to Angela being partnered with Dominic again.
Yeah, and I was doing quick math, and I was like, she's not been partnered with all these people. And so I think that, and TJ iterated hey, you will do it until it's mathematically impossible to get you a new partner. So I guess they just paired the people on the top end, and if you're just working with them new partners, it is possible that someone at the very end would be paired up with someone they've already worked with. It just is a little suspect that, with Ben and Sarah and all that type of stuff. So immediately after all that, Cachet, who is Tyson's partner who threw Sarah and Leo in, is just sitting on the floor talking to Sarah and just starts crying and completely throws Tyson under the bus.
She's crying and apologizing to Sarah for throwing her into elimination. Yeah. I think because Cachet is no longer partnered with Tyson, who's a very strong competitor that has the potential to continue to win dailies and keep her safe. They're not partners anymore. So Cachet realizes that she's off on her own now, and she's seen how Sarah is trying to get revenge on Tyson. Maybe she's thinking, oh, I was part of that. She may come after me too.
Oh, I think it's 100% self-preservation.
But she started crying and apologizing and said that Tyson forced her to go along with this and forced her hand. She didn't really have a say in it. Completely threw Tyson under the bus, threw every single ounce of blame on him. It was just I don't know. I was under the impression last episode that Cachet was as on board with that.
I think she was.
Yeah.
But I think it's an easy thing to say, oh, Tyson forced me. But I think in the moment, Tyson probably did suggest it, and she was like, oh yeah, it's a great idea, probably. Yeah. Again, you're playing an individual game. We didn't get David and Enzo kind of being buddy talking about things, and that's when we on this show at least find out that David went home day one of Big Brother. Because he said he walked in there thinking he's going to win the whole thing, and then he got kicked. Because again, when I did the podcast with Grimm and Connor, they were both I have no idea why he's here. He was gone right away on Big Brother. At least all the other people here at least lasted a while.
Yeah.
That guy came in and immediately got kicked out, and we never saw him again.
Well, I was taking notes on something else when David was giving that little confessional, oh, I ended up going home night one, and I just heard it and just I couldn't stifle a giggle, and I looked at you and I said, why is he even here?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, we didn't really see much from him until the elimination day that he went in with Justine, but I don't mind him. Like, he hasn't rubbed me the wrong way or anything. Now that we've seen more of him camera time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's not my favorite or anything on the show, but...
He's fine.
I mean, he's not, like, a Leo level to me as far as, like... I just don't want to watch him anymore.
Yeah.
So we find out that Kyra is up puking all night.
Is it Kyra or Kira?
It is Kira. I think we said Kyra, and then they corrected that it was Kira. Anyway, she was up puking all night leading up to the daily.
Didn't want Tyson to know.
Well, you don't want anyone to know, because if that's the case, then people are going to target you. Going back to the whole Shannon thing, which will come into play later. So we get to the daily. It's just called containment because it's shipping containers. And it's a very complicated daily. Like, from what I can gather, you're both on two different shipping containers. You like jump off the ledge and swim to ladders. And there are 4 symbols on the outside and then on the inside. And you have to count how many of each symbol there are. So, like, lightning, I'm like, okay, there's 3 lightning bolts on mine, but then there's, like, 4 skulls and 2 of this and 2 whatever. Then you add those numbers together when you both swim back to shore after you've done the rope swing and grabbed your key and pushed your key in. And then you get a code, like a key, a different type of key, like a map type of key that's like, hey, skulls are worth 150. Well, we had 4 skulls. That's 600. So then you do the math and add it all together, and whatever 4-digit code you get is your unlock or diffuse code or whatever to win the daily. That's correct math. That's correct. You don't have to check me on it. You did. She pulled out her calculator and checked it.
My note was this is a lot for a daily.
There's
like 10 steps. There's a lot to go through.
Once I saw it in practice, it wasn't as bad, but when they were explaining it, I was like, this is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily complaining because I would rather it be a little more on the difficult side as opposed to on the easy side.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's more fun and it's more entertaining to watch them do things that are more demanding as opposed to like the carnival games.
Yeah, this isn't Big Brother.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't really have notes for every single team.
They got expo markers and boards for this.
Okay.
I thought that was an interesting thing to do because
they have to do the math.
I know, but a lot of like we've seen in past challenges where like if you're doing math, you got to do it in your head
this was
creative.
This one was tougher because you're having to remember numbers and then apply that to a key and then multiply those and then add 4 separate numbers together to get one big number. It was a little bit more complicated math-wise than like the window thing. We did find out Dominique is a math guy and
Dominic.
Yeah, but it's fine.
But Dominique is the female version of that name.
I think that there's some guys named Dominique.
Okay, well that's not his name. His name is Dominic.
It's spelled that way, but
it is spelled Dominic,
but
and it is pronounced Dominic.
I've never heard.
No one has called him Dominique. I've heard it myself. They've called him Dominic.
Well, he's a math guy.
He's got a bachelor's in finance, which Angela was kind of upset about being paired with him again, but with this, it kind of seemed like he was going to be able to pull his own weight being partnered with her, which makes it better for her.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, the more that I watch Angela, like, great competitor. I think she's really pretty. She seems very nice. She's kind of boring. Very, like, muted as far as, like, personality-wise.
Big Brother?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it very, like, sleepy, almost. Now, she's not sleepy, but it's just, like, there's nothing that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. She's just there as a presence.
Not quite like Casey to me, like, but
I see similarities there.
Yeah, both just good athletes, very boring for the most part.
Okay.
So Ben and Sarah, I think, go next, and they are the only team, from what I remember, that had to go back up because they got their math equation wrong because Sarah completely missed one of the symbols. So that threw off the multiplication, which threw off the adding of all the stuff later.
Leo said in a confessional that Ben, Sarah, Kayla, and himself are out for vengeance. However,
no one's afraid of Leo.
Just a little prior to this, Kayla actually said in a confessional the complete opposite.
Yeah,
that she was hoping Leo would kind of
to not
tone
make her
it down
too.
exactly because she doesn't want to be involved.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's afraid of Leo on this show. I think he just happened to be partnered with Sarah, and they won. Weirdly, so like I haven't checked our Slack group Challenge USA related channel this week because I'm trying not to spoil anything. But like a couple weeks ago, some people who are not spoiled at all because we don't allow spoiler talk in there. They were just saying like, "Hey, here's my favorites to win, guy and girl, whatever." And one of the guys who's a smart guy, I trust his opinion on things. He has Kayla as the one to win for the girls.
Really,
Greg?
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, he knows his stuff.
He does.
And I think she's got the smarts to do it for sure. It's just we know what the finals are like.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what her endurance is like. So we'll have to see. But I mean, there was a couple people who like really like Kayla as a favorite to win. I mean, Tyson's a big one to win.
Yeah.
Kylan, I think some people have up there. But yeah, I was like,
I can see Kayla making a final.
yeah, it's just the finals a whole nother game essentially, and so I just don't know.
I don't know that I'd pick her to win, but I'd definitely pick her as being one of the ones to make it.
If I had to pick one of the women right now, I might be leaning a little towards Desi over Angela.
Okay.
Because Desi, in this daily, which I'm skipping ahead a little bit, she did all the math for them. She's very physically fit. She's not afraid to do stuff. And
she was ahead of David in the entire daily.
And, like, she's a threat. Like, they should be worried about her. I mean, Angela's obviously, like, she's going to be good, too. But, anyway, Kylan and I believe Cache made a mantra to just yell spring break when they jump off the sides. I mean, the little ledge thing.
Kylan offered to throw her, which she said
no. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he was like, "Do you want me to throw you?" And she's like, "Do not touch me."
Because she's afraid of water.
Yeah, she literally said, "Do not touch me." And then they jumped.
Well, then they yelled spring break. And then Shannon is going with Derek, and she falls weird coming from the top of the container down to the bottom. And she yells to Derek, but everyone else can hear
that she pulled her
that
hamstring.
She pulled a muscle. And it's like, well, you've just let everyone know that you're not as much of a threat if you don't win this.
She gets hurt and then literally yells it for the entire world to hear.
Yeah, it's not. She's not, to me, not been one of the big brain people on the show.
She can spell goggles backwards, though.
She can. I mean, we'll get to that in a little bit. But Tyson and Kira go. He said this is water, climbing, and brain stuff, which are the three things I'm best at out of everyone here. And but
you said water and climbing really close together, and my brain registered
water
that as water, climbing, and brain stuff.
Yeah.
And you were like, those are the three things. I'm like, where's the third one?
Yeah,
where's the third one?
You know how you do water climbing?
Well, I'm telling you, my mind.
I'm telling you his exact quotes.
my mind separated that as water, climbing, and brain, comma, stuff. And I was sitting here trying to figure out what's the stuff.
So you thought the three things were
no,
water climbing.
I understood when he said it.
Brain.
When you said it, you completely threw me off.
I said the exact same thing.
You said water climbing and brain stuff.
Water climbing and brain stuff.
Yes, water climbing. You're saying it as one word. Water, climbing, and brain stuff.
Do I need to pronounce commas and stuff going forward like you're talking to Siri?
No, just don't run your words together.
I did not.
You created a whole new sport.
Well, Kira, because she doesn't have any like strength left in her body from throwing up so much, which does suck, and that's kind of out of her control.
Can you imagine doing this after throwing up all night?
No, I hate throwing up more than anything in the world.
You threw up last week, didn't you?
We talked about it on last podcast, I believe. that actually was one of the most pleasurable like throw up experiences I've ever had. Like usually it's
a pleasurable vomit.
It was not pleasurable, but on a scale of how bad you can feel when
it was a 1.
It was, I wouldn't say a 1, but most of the time you're at like an 8+, and I'd say this was like a 4 at its worst. And so I was pleasantly surprised when I got done that I felt as okay as I did.
Well, you got done and then you came in the bedroom and you're like, I feel so much better. And
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I mean, you always feel a little bit better right when you throw up, but then it kind of hits you in waves. And after
You were fine for the rest of the night.
it happened, yeah, I threw up twice and then I was okay. It wasn't a lot, but it was just I hate it. I hate it more than anything. And we're about to move out of this house.
We are.
I've gone this entire time we've lived in this house without throwing up in it. And then it's just like, no, you can't move until you throw up in the house. And
Now you have thrown up in
I
here.
have.
Not in this room, in the next room.
Yeah.
Because
the
we're next to the bathroom. You have thrown up in here, so now the house will allow us to move out now.
It's releasing me.
It's like it's birthing you.
I wasn't going to say that. Anyway, Kira DQs because her rope swing attempt was very pathetic as far as like in the literal definition of it. Like she did not support her body weight at all. She didn't hold herself up. She immediately fell like 2 feet lower than what she was standing at and then just like hit her ribs into the platform.
She was already holding Tyson back significantly before the rope jump. But once she actually got to the rope, I don't know if maybe she really was just super, super weak from being sick all night and all morning, or if she was just so done that she was like, I'm not even going to try anymore.
I mean, I think she deserves props for even doing the daily.
Oh, no, I agree. I'm saying, is she giving up by the time she gets to the rope?
I think she's like, I'm going to try it, and then we'll go from there. But once she fell, and she was going to have to reclimb all that stuff again, it was just
I don't blame her because looking at how much time they had left before like timing out, plus her being really weak and sick, it would have taken her forever to swim back to the ladder, climb all the way up, and then make the swing, and then jump down to the water, swim back to shore, plus do all the math. There just would not have been enough time for that.
I do
anyway.
not like people quitting. I don't like people giving up or whatever. But I also do very much sympathize with people who are physically sick because I've been through some of the worst like sicknesses in the world overseas and stuff like that. And I have even watching Alone, like when some people like get sick from what they've eaten off the out of the ground and stuff.
Do you get sympathy sick?
I don't get sympathy sick, but I feel bad because I just imagine me being in that situation, and I know how miserable it is, especially I haven't been that way, but being out in the wilderness by yourself with no meds, nobody around you, no like bathroom, no like just clean cold water or anything with you. So and Alone, when the people get sick, I'm like, oh god, I would feel so bad doing that. So they DQ. Enzo and Justine go next, and he immediately says, speaking about the house to the camera before they go, he says, doo-doo pies are happening.
Well, he said he was scared.
But he also said, doo-doo pies are happening.
Yes, his quote was, I'm scared, doo-doo pies are happening.
Yes.
As though he were saying...
He were saying.
As though he was saying, I am... crapping my pants right now.
I couldn't tell if he was saying that or if he was, because she says right before that there's a lot of like tension in the house and people fighting and all that, and I couldn't tell if he was just like, oh yeah, doo-doo pies are happening, like people are like starting crap with each other inside the house.
I know, I didn't get that. I got that he was nervous and was crapping himself before
It's
starting.
possible because he ends
up quitting in the middle of the day. Like he's like, I can't do it.
Enzo ends up quitting.
You're putting your words together again.
That was on purpose. He quits the rope swing. Like Justine tried and she like swung out and didn't have the right like height, and she kind of like swung herself back, and then she wouldn't try again because people from the shore were telling her like, Enzo, you got to be up there and help her over.
Yeah.
And he
didn't even attempt.
No.
Made no attempt. Just said, I can't do it.
Yeah. And so I feel like rightfully so he went into elimination because
at least Kira tried.
She tried, even being sick. He's not sick, and he
had no
try.
excuse. He just didn't want to do it. But yeah, doo-doo pies are happening. Very strange phrase.
Yeah, typically
doo-doo pies in general. That's got to be like one of his top 10 vocabulary.
Well, we've already had an episode title named doo-doo pies, and so
we can't do it again.
I'm not going to do it. I know what I'm going to name this one. But
what are you going to name it?
LACINYS. It's cynical spelled backwards, but with an S at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not gonna do 2 doo-doo pie episodes.
Not worth it, especially since he quit the daily.
He did win the elimination, but so Leo is scared to jump off the little ledge, probably like 8 feet. 6 feet, something like that. It's not a huge ledge. Like, you're just jumping in the water.
But at least now we kind of understand why he has an aversion to water. Apparently...
If you remember in the first, like, water challenge, they're running on the beach, and he's the one who took the time to, like, take his shoes off before he got in the water.
Yeah, and I don't understand why he took his shoes off. I still don't get that. But apparently when he was a little kid, he fell off a boat and almost drowned.
Do you think he made that up? Because I don't really, but just in jest, because cats don't like water, and so he's like, I have to have a backstory as to why I don't like water,
like an origin story.
Yeah, like this is when like Bruce Wayne's parents were killed. This is his story.
I could see it. I think that'd be
I think it'd be funny. I genuinely don't think he made that up, and he probably
I don't either. I think it's a real story.
If anyone on this cast were to make up a story, I feel like he would be like, what would make me sound more cat-like is that I don't like water because of a traumatic experience. I don't genuinely think that, but
I can see him doing it, and I think it'd be funny if he did make it up, but I don't believe that he did.
Do you know why he yells Shaq and Kobe, bro?
The part that Enzo quit the daily on, where you jump from the shipping container to the platform via rope swing.
It's a rope swing, yeah.
He actually he's really afraid of water, really afraid of heights over water and falling into the water because of childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Very understandable. And so, like, he takes a few breaths and kind of is, like, mentally psyching himself up to do it. And he actually jumps and lands on the platform. And he mutters to himself, Shaq and Kobe, bro.
Yeah. What does that mean? You didn't answer my question. I know Shaq and Kobe were one of the best duos of all time, like, together when they had their run on the Lakers. I don't know why he said it when himself did a rope swing. I don't know what it means. It wasn't like there's not, as far as I know. If someone knows the answer why he says this, please just let me know. But as far as I know, there wasn't like a defining cultural moment where they accomplished something and everyone's like Shaq and Kobe, bro. Like, I don't get.
Here's my thinking. This is what I got immediately when it happened when we were watching it. Also backing myself up with everything that we've seen of him so far in this season. I think this was such a big feat for him, and Shaq and Kobe are two of the biggest names in basketball ever. And I think because he accomplished this big thing to him, he says Shaq and Kobe, bro, as though he were the Shaq or Kobe of this daily.
Yeah, that's the problem. But he said 2 names, and he was.
But he's putting himself as the third musketeer there.
But that doesn't even make it.
If
anything, he like personifies himself as both of them.
Yes.
So not the third musketeer, which is a whole nother reference.
Okay,
yeah.
But still, I think in that moment he elevated himself to their status.
I have become Shaq and Kobe.
Bro.
And I'm on their level as far as peak athleticism and accomplishments.
In that moment, 100%. That was exactly what I thought.
He's a weird guy. So Enzo and Justine are the ones going into elimination.
Because they didn't even try.
Yeah, Tyson did at least make the middle part, and Kira did try, and no one on their team made it, and Enzo just didn't even try.
When Enzo just chose to DQ himself and Justine, I looked at you and I said, that means they'll go to elimination, and Tyson and Kira will not go to elimination because they at least tried.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but the challenge is weird sometimes, and I'd be like, they both DQ'd, but they could be like, they DQ'd quicker than Enzo. And
but also,
I think it's fair what they did.
Yeah, I think it's fair too. But also, judging by it, neither Enzo nor Justine made it to the platform. Tyson at least made it to the platform. And I would say they actually got further before DQing.
I think it's both and. Like, Tyson made it, and Kira tried, and then Justine swung and then swung back, and Enzo didn't even try. And so my only thing was, it wouldn't shock me if production was like, oh, well, Enzo and them DQ'd at 27 minutes, but Tyson and them DQ'd at 28 minutes or whatever. But I think the way they did it was fair. So Desi and David are the winners. Again, just kind of showing she's a threat, going forward. We get that winners and losers conversation that we've had on every episode.
Not much of a conversation.
Yeah, really not much happens. Enzo's like, I respect both you guys, whatever you want to do. And
neither one of them wanted to give a name.
Well, they hadn't even talked yet. As far as Desi and David, they're like, we haven't even discussed this yet.
Yeah.
And so not much happened there.
David talks to Desi about potentially taking a big shot.
Well, before that, though, he suggests Leo and Kayla.
Yes.
Because Leo's kind of erratic, and I just don't know what he feels about Kayla. And they're both amazing race, no ties to, Big Brother or Survivor. And then Desi brings up Derek and Shannon, because Shannon's hurt. Mm-hmm. And that's also not a move that's going to cause a lot of rifts if you throw them in.
Because they don't have strong ties to a lot of people.
I mean, Derek's got some Big Brother ties, but
it's not like...
It's like Alyssa. She's not a big threat right now.
Not really a strong tie.
I like Derek.
I like Derek, too, and I was starting to get to like Shannon.
She was much...
She's more entertaining.
I will say she's gotten a lot better from the first impression we got in episode 1.
Yes.
But he did. That is when he said he was considering a big move as well. But
because David specifically said he was interested in taking out his two biggest male threats, which are Tyson and Katelin.
Yeah, I mean, I think we didn't actually see the conversation. I suspect that Desi ultimately talked him down from that. It's not a time to go after previous winners right now.
Yeah, because I think if you look at who's already in elimination, Enzo and Justine, if you throw in Tyson or Katelin, I think either one of them are almost definitely coming back.
Well, Tyson said if he gets thrown in and he comes, I mean it's a lot of BS talk, but if he gets thrown in, he's like, I don't even care if I win. I'm going to make sure that the people that throw me in are going home, even if it costs me going home too.
Yeah, he said he has no problem sacrificing his own game to spite two people that went against him. Which, honestly, I think he might mean that because he went after Sarah and Ben, who
Tyson's different as far
first.
as Tyson's different because he is kind of top of the food chain right now, and his game in general is he doesn't mind seemingly to take swings and put a target on himself because he's like, I know I can perform. And
also, he already has a target on his back because he's been killing it.
Yeah. So Desi and David aren't really in that situation because if they go after someone, that immediately makes him a target. And right now, they're kind of just
middle of the
road,
coasting
with upside. And I just think I think it's just not a smart move to do it. I get that sometimes we say, if you got a shot to take a big shot, go for it. I don't think Enzo and Justine are such a dominant threat that you can bet on taking someone big out. If it was a stacked team that's already going in just for a fluke in the daily, and you want to take a shot, then go for that. But Enzo and Justine are kind of it's a toss up on if they're going to win an elimination. Mm-hmm. Kira is still sick. Justine's like comforting her, telling her to drink water. But she's saying she's trying to keep it under wraps. Apparently people know because in the next scene, Kayla is talking about how she's dehydrated.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she means she's dehydrated and that's what's causing her to be sick, or if because she's been sick, she's dehydrated. She's not keeping fluids in.
I was under the impression of Kira's been throwing up so much that she is now dehydrated.
Yeah. That's probably the case. Because it's so hard to, again, I hate it. It's so hard to like force yourself to drink liquids and stuff like that when you're throwing up, especially for now a couple days. It seems.
Yeah.
That seems more like, I don't know what it causes. That seems like, but they are in Argentina, and again, when you go to a different country and you're not used to their food and their water supply and things like that, some little like microbiomes and like gut bacteria and stuff can come in there and cause all kinds of issues that you've never had before. And so I've had that happen many times. And even like the meds you're on, because like, probably some of them are on medication, or sometimes when you go to a foreign country, you have to take certain medication, things like that.
Like you guys, when you go to Africa, you have to take malaria pills.
Yeah, if I go again, I probably won't take them. I think that's probably what causes a lot of my issues now.
Just come back with malaria instead.
I mean, it's... Yeah, I mean,
what?
No.
What?
No, it's malaria is mosquitoes kill more people than any other thing in the world.
Yeah, and I don't like that. You're like, yeah, I'll just come back with malaria.
No, I wouldn't come.
That's no problem.
With malaria.
You just wouldn't come back.
We'll see.
Okay.
So, Derek and Shannon basically talk to each other, and they're like, "Hey, everyone knows you're hurt, and what if we just like." Don't act like that, and we put our workout clothes on and we go stretch, and people will think that we're working out and moving around, and you can just kind of do what you do and talk and be loud and just try to trick people into thinking that you're not hurt now.
Well, Shannon said that Alyssa actually, I'm trying to remember who Alyssa is.
That's Derek's like number one.
Okay. Apparently she told Shannon to pretend like her leg is fine and that it's not injured anymore. And so...
Because she's looking out for Derek.
Right. And so Shannon was already like, oh, yeah, what injury? There's no injury here.
Yeah.
But
if I'm being honest, based on the brains that we have not seen with Shannon so far, it's a good move to like already be like, oh, yeah, like what injury? What, because... to me, she's not the most academically strong on the show. But, we'll see. So we go into the elimination. They pick Derek and Shannon, kind of expected. She clearly told people she was hurt on the daily. And
David didn't want the potential of being teamed up with her if she's still hurt.
True. And so at that point, TJ's like explaining the rules and is like about to start, and I was like, wait, they didn't say the name of this elimination. And I was like, did you catch anything? And you're like, I never catch what they call it.
I never listen to what the name is.
And so I always write it down. And so I like rewound back and I played it again, and I was like, this is weird. I was like, maybe they called it something and then felt like, oh, we can't air this for whatever reason, and so we just have to cut it out and pretend like it's just a daily I have no idea like why. The only thing I can think of is so like this is a strange example, but I saw this movie on one of the streaming services recently. There was a movie that was supposed to be coming out with Ben Stiller and I believe Vince Vaughn, maybe not, and Richard Ayoade from the IT Crowd and some other people, and it was supposed to be called Neighborhood Watch. Mm-hmm. And then I don't remember which exact shooting because there's a million of them now. It may have been Trayvon Martin, honestly, and George Zimmerman, that whole situation where he was like, oh, I was protecting my neighborhood. That kind of became like a buzz phrase. Mm-hmm. And so the movie was about to come out and they had to completely rebrand it and all that at the last minute and call it just The Watch and kind of just let it slide under the radar. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty big cast for what it is, but they just decided not to really promote it very much because of the subject matter. So that was the only type of thing I could think of is like maybe they called it something and like months ago that's like triggering something now that they weren't putting together at the time that, you know, just was pure like innocent at the time. But then it turns out it was all just a trick, and TJ almost blew his horn, and every one of them false started, and like the guys fell off into the stand, like in the sand, and TJ's like, "What are you guys doing?" He's like, "You think I was just gonna let you run tires all night?" Which basically yes, but he's like, "No, this is called spelling Ebe." He's like, "It's like B but backwards," and I was like, "Okay." And then basically he's like, "All right, we're gonna have you guys spell stuff backwards, and for everyone you get wrong and your opponent gets right, they get 5 tires off their stack." And so I thought they were going to do multiple rounds of this.
I did too. I thought it was just going to keep going until
well,
somebody got all their tires off their platform.
I didn't expect that because he needs something physical as well. I get balancing a mental side with a physical, so it's not purely one way or the other. So maybe some team, if they're just like real dumb but big like athletes, you know, you can kind of even it out a little bit. But he only asked one question to each person. I expected at least 2 questions per person.
Yeah. Justine can't spell cynical.
She cannot, which again is going to be the episode title. I will say in her defense, Shannon did get a much easier to me word to spell backwards. I guess it's a little tricky with there's 3 G's in it. And Justine got the correct order. She just didn't know if it was a C or an S. I mean, to me, I know it's a C.
Yeah, but she didn't know how to spell the word cynical.
Yeah.
Frontwards.
Yeah. So that's on her. Everyone else, I think it was dredge, shovel, cynical, and then goggles. Yeah.
Cynical's the hardest word out of all those.
Yeah, dredge is a little weird to me, just trying to like visualize it.
Well, maybe I'm more... Why do
you use the word dredge a lot?
In cooking, you dredge your chicken.
I know. I've actually seen a band called Dredge live. Actually,
do they dredge chicken?
Quick side story. I've told you about this. I had a friend in high school who he would burn me CDs of bands that he thought I would like.
Yes, you have told me this.
Because we liked some layover, like we had musical tastes that kind of like blended into each other. I listened to heavier stuff than he did for the most part, but I listened to a lot of indie bands too. Like
a Venn diagram.
Yes, like we met in the middle for sure. And so he would give me CDs of stuff that he was like, "Hey, I think you'd like this, burn me CD."
Here's the thing that gets me with this.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time.
We were good friends.
But he spent a lot of... it was like a love language for him.
I would sometimes burn CDs for him too that I thought he was into.
But he spent a lot of time
he did it more to me
thinking about you and what he thought you might like.
I think more than anything, it's that we were at a small private Christian school, and there was not a lot of people that were into the same type of music he is. And I mean, he was like Weezer's like his favorite band. He's not anything obscure, but he liked the Weezer, he liked Weezer and the Unicorns and like this band Dredge, and he, like more like indie rock type stuff. And again, he would like some of the stuff I listened to as well, but I think that was just like his like personality. He's like, I like this stuff. I think I would like someone else to like it, and that I am kind of that way too. So he burned me Dredge, and I was like, it's okay. I believe that one was like Bug Eyes, or I don't remember. It was probably around 2005, 2006, and I actually went to a concert with not him, weirdly, but my friend Andrew, who's been on our Patreon podcast. He went with us, and I can't remember who else. Jake Ingle I think Jake Ingle was there, so I think Jake went, and it was Me Without You was the opener.
Oh, that's why Andrew went.
Of course, his favorite band of all time, and we all loved Me Without You. And then Dredge, and then the Blood Brothers, who I love the Blood Brothers.
I don't love the Blood Brothers.
And then Coheed and Cambria were the headliners. It's very weird.
The Blood Brothers is the one that sticks out for me. I don't know anything from
The Blood
Dredge.
Brothers is the strangest out of that group, but they were very big at the time, even though they were a little weird. But they have a very high pitched vocalist sometimes, and Coheed does that as well. But anyway, Me Without You plays they kill it. Actually, I forgot, one of Andrew's friends drove in from like East Tennessee. This is in Nashville, and just showed up. And we were like waiting inside, and we had like paper tickets. This is way before mobile tickets or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey guys," and I believe this was a guy either named Russell or Ryan, but in their friend group they just called him Visitor because they're all really weird. And he just showed up, and he was like, "Hey, I'm here for the show." He's like, "I don't have a ticket though." And we're like, "Okay, this thing's been sold out for like a few weeks now." And like, "Oh, it's fine." He's like, "I'll just get in." And
he did.
He just kind of hung around with us, and we went in, and then he waited for someone to walk out a side door, and he just walked right in. And he drove like 4 hours, and then just was like, "Yeah, I'll get in somehow. It's fine." And then he did. And then he just like showed up in the middle of Me Without You, like standing beside us, because he had to wait a little while to like for people to go out and probably smoke or whatever and come in. And he just acted like he was supposed to and walked in and just came in midway through. So that happened. Anyway,
That's wild.
Dredge played next, and I was familiar with them. I had the CD, and I was like, they're not bad. I was like, we'll see what that. Bar none, the most boring band I've ever seen live.
Really?
Absolutely. Like, to the point that Andrew, who had just seen his favorite band play, went to the back of the room, and they had these like bar tables, like pub type tables that are, you know, like mid stomach high or whatever.
Pub table.
Yeah, pub table. And they have chairs there. He put his head on the table and went to sleep. And this was like 8:00 at night. He fell asleep in a not huge venue
that was sold out in the middle of a concert that just started.
Probably like 2,000 people, something like maybe 1,500 people. I don't even know how many were in Old Rocky Town back then. They were so boring, he fell asleep during it and missed most of the Blood Brothers because he just was asleep. And I was like, I can't believe how boring this band was. It literally put my friend to sleep, who at the time he's not old. He's probably like 25 at the time. And that's my legacy of Dredge, is that they're insanely boring. They did one thing cool, though, because at least when most of the bands break down their equipment, it's usually just like dead time, and there's like just music playing on a PA. Their drummer kept playing and singing the whole time the rest of the band broke stuff down until they took away all of his drums, and then he just had a little keyboard beside him and he was playing that. So that's the only positive thing I have to say about that. On album, like on their album, they're not that bad, but good God, I've never seen a band as boring as Dredge was live. It's insane.
Well,
I'll take you to them someday.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
What's worse, spelling Dredge backwards or seeing Dredge live?
Well, it's a double-edged thing, because I also got to see 3 bands that I really, really like. I Love Me Without You. I loved the Blood Brothers at the time. I still like the Blood Brothers.
Those don't count. I'm asking, what's worse, spelling Dredge backwards in elimination with a partner who can't spell cynical, or seeing Dredge live?
What's worse is seeing Dredge live.
Really?
Yeah, because I can spell Dredge backwards.
But in elimination.
Yeah, no.
That could potentially send you home with a partner who cannot spell the word cynical.
It's seeing them live, because especially if they were with like other bands that you don't care about. I
really think they should have done multiple rounds.
Two rounds at minimum. Yeah, I think they should have done 2 rounds.
Because by the end of this,
it's just 5 tires.
It was just 5 tires that Derek and Shannon got taken off.
Well, yeah. I expected multiple rounds, because
if they're not going to do multiple rounds, if this was all it was going to be, they should have just left it out.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately didn't affect the outcome of the thing, because when it started, when we looked at what the elimination was, I told you, I was like, I think Enzo and Justee are going to win. And then they're like, oh, we got a twist, and it's all brain focused. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. I was like, because Derek seems like a smart guy. And I was like, this could very even it out. And I was like, oh, if they get like a 10 or 15 tire lead, that's different.
Psych.
Yeah, it's just,
They should.
The most you could have got was 10.
Exactly.
And that's if both people on the other team screwed up. So
they should have just left this out. If they weren't going to do at least 2 rounds of it, they should have left it out.
Yeah, so they get going. Basically, Derek and Shannon have a 5 tire lead, but it all comes down to execution, and Shannon and Derek start stacking all of their tires individually upright on the front end of their platform. So then they have to start working around to the backside. And also they don't stack them very carefully. And the tires are different sizes and whatever, which I do think is an interesting twist because it's not all uniform.
Yeah.
And so Enzo has a much better, he's apparently an insurance adjuster and deals with cars and stuff all the time. Much better strategy as far as like, hey, we're going to lay them out in one flat layer and then just build up from there and keep it all flat as we're going forward. So that way when they all stay on the platform. And instead of having these like big floppy towers on the front end that can get knocked over, because that's what happened was Derek and Shannon, I would have won, I think, but their stuff kept falling over. It fell over 2 or 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah. And it just came down to execution, and that's where Enzo and Justine beat them.
Even TJ got worked up over this.
It got close. It got real close.
He was yelling for Enzo and Justine to get a move on it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if he was going to be rooting for them because that's a little biased, but it got close. Like it was like, oh wow, they've only got 2 tires left, and Derek and them are done, but they have 10 tires on the ground.
Yeah, they keep falling over.
Yeah. And so it ends up Enzo and Justine win, and that's the end of the episode. I think it's a good win for them. Shout out to Enzo, oldest guy on the show. Winning, but he seems like a nice guy. It's just you gotta be able to at least try stuff on the dailies,
and you gotta take doo-doo pies out of your vocabulary.
I think that's if we've heard it this many times and twice like that we know of. He may have said it every single day, and they just cut it out.
You know what they didn't cut out?
My wife Kiki,
Danny's wife Kiki, and Jamaica.
Oh yeah, we did find out that she took him to Jamaica and made him jump off stuff, and so he thanked her for that.
It prepared him for this.
So, superlatives for this episode. Who smashed some heads?
Shannon's hamstring.
Smashed some heads?
Smashed her head.
Okay. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one was hard.
It is a tough one. I'm going to say... I'm going to give it to Desi.
Okay.
Won the daily, took the lead on everything.
She did very well this episode.
She seems super nice.
Mm-hmm. I would be her friend.
Yeah. To me, I think she's the prettiest person on the show. And I just think that she's a threat.
What do you think TJ would think if you said that to him?
Oh, because he's not the pretty.
He should.
Do you count him as part of the show?
Yeah, he's part of the show. He's not part of the house, but he's part of the show.
You think he's the prettier than her? She's about to say you got to be audible about this.
Because
you can't even,
his BMXing.
Yeah, which he's not
really
done on the show.
But he did it.
He did. She was a Miss whatever competitor.
Okay, sometimes he wears aviators.
Great.
With a peacoat.
So I'm going to give it to her for who got their head smashed. I'm going to go. And it's Kira because she's just throwing up. And it's awful. And she, you could tell she did not have any strength on that rope swing.
She was.
And she's got to feel bad because she let Tyson down.
And he's the one partner that she's been begging to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was fighting for her life. I put Shannon and Derek because as they were saying goodbye to the house. So a double Shannon. Yeah, double Shannon. As each of them were saying goodbye to the house, they both started crying.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think that they really thought they were going to be thrown into elimination.
I don't know. I feel like they were an easy pick just because she's hurt.
They were an easy pick, but they also were not much of a threat in the house. So, I mean, really, I wouldn't have picked them for elimination. That's a team that you would want to stick around, especially Shannon being injured.
Yeah, I mean, well, no. If you're David, you don't
But if you're Desi, you do.
Yeah, but you gotta.
Regardless, they both were just crying.
Yeah.
And
again, I liked Derek.
I did too. I kind of liked both of them.
She grew on me. I like Derek from kind of day one, but she grew on me. So, I mean, I other than Justee, maybe, I think that Shannon might have become the most like okay person from Love Island to me. I think Justee's like clearly the like best competitor out of them.
Yeah. Probably. Just judging by how she's performed, how we've seen her perform so far. Eliminations already. She's done fine.
So for recommendations for this week, like we've been doing every week, we're doing reading recommendations. I think I'm going to have enough graphic novels or comics that are combined into like graphic novel style to do for the rest of the season if it goes according to plan. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
I'll go first. My reading rec, my reading rainbow for this week.
Shout out to LeVar Burton.
Yeah. It's a book that I have recently started and been working through called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. It was originally written in 1968, but it's set in 2021. And so it's really interesting to just like read that as thinking like back in 1968, he like, obviously this is all like fantasy sci-fi. Yeah. He didn't really think this was going to happen. This was just like his imagination running wild as he wrote this. But to think, you know, the people that read this book in 1968 thinking, oh my gosh, what if this really happened? What if this was really the future in 2021? And here we are in 2022. And I'm like, no, none of this happened. Instead, we had COVID-19 shut down the whole world.
So that's a thing that I've kind of noticed going in like graphic novels and then even with like movies and stuff. The further we get into like just media in general, the less people do like kind of within reach years. Like it's really hard to find something that's written right now that's set in like 2047. Yeah. Because like that's gonna be like we're gonna live to see those days, and like the author might. So like what I've seen is stuff is like pushed like way far. It's like 23 whatever, like to where there might not even be like physical copies of like movies and stuff still. But like the Weatherman that I suggested, it's like in like 2770 or something like that.
Well, most of the post-apocalyptic sci-fi books that I read don't ever actually
say a date.
Have a date listed, whereas in this book, it's like in chapter 1, they're like, oh, it's and they talk about things that happened in 2017 and 2018, and I'm like, it's so. And I don't know if it's because we've already passed that.
I mean, it's 50 years period. From when it was written,
right? Yeah. But it's almost like a mind trip that almost pulls me out of the book, but in a way kind of pulls me deeper into it.
Well, that's why I think that most like modern stuff doesn't really date because they want it to kind of be evergreen.
Right.
And going to similar to that, I saw that, I don't know how familiar you are with the Jetsons.
Oh, yeah.
Well, apparently like George Jetson was born like 3 weeks ago. According to like the show like his driver's license or whatever.
Yeah.
He was born in like July, whatever, 2022. And so like that show, he's like a dad. So that would be like 30 or 40 years from now. Cause I think he was like 35 or whatever. So in like 2050, we're all supposed to be in like spaceships and like have robot maids and.
Well, that's the thing. Like in this book set in 2021, they just hop in their hover cars and fly from
a big thing in the 60s and 70s.
Fly from San Francisco to like Portland, Oregon, and it's there in a way it half pulls me out of the book, and I'm like, this isn't real, but also on the flip side of that, sometimes it pulls me deeper into it, and I try to visualize like I'm in 2022 right now, which is similar to 2021, or I think last year, where was I sitting last year, and what if all of this was happening around me? But yes, back in the 60s,
they thought flying cars was inevitable.
They knew that flying cars was the future, and it was happening. Obviously we don't have flying cars. I don't think we're that close to it.
Not on a consumer level.
But one thing for sure that I catch myself thinking about, and I don't know if maybe it's because of me thinking about some of my previous recommendations for this season being just very futuristic, sci-fi, androidy. Like I sit and I think about current states of AI in the world. Like my boss at my part-time job, her son just got a job at a really, really big wig company, and he's dedicating his entire life to developing AI.
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs in, like, I'm looking in the video game industry. There's a lot of jobs in machine learning. Kind of the area.
Well, he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be in Silicon Valley, but he's going to be like Southern California, outskirts of LA kind of place, doing stuff like that. And I mean, he graduated from MIT, and I mean, he's got the brain for it. If anybody's going to create an android, it'll be him. But you know, a lot of these books that I've read allude that in the distant, not so distant future, or like in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, right now.
Sleep. Is it sheep or sleep?
Sheep.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you said sleep earlier. Yeah.
If I said sleep, I don't.
No, you may have. I may have
it's sheep.
That. Yeah.
They think that there are androids everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What are, like, obviously they're not consumer level. We don't have an android in our house doing all of our housekeeping right now. Mm-hmm. But how far away from that do you think we are? I fully think that in some areas of the world, especially people that have like just so much money they don't know what to do with it, that there are like early stages of androids that are being like kept under wraps and being like developed further for the aim of consumer production. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I do think that it is something that is already in the works and already created, just being altered and edited. And
I mean, you're like, so I'll just show you this.
Will Smith, iRobot. How far away are we from that?
Oh, we're not close to that. But
I know we're not close to it, but so I've seen videos of like the AI heads or like robot heads, and you talk to them and they like learn your name and ask you things, and they have like, they learn your facial features and like your expressions, and they replicate,
like mimic.
Yeah. They replicate and they mimic the facial expressions that they see people doing. Like, AI is a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, I didn't know that apparently there's been some updates within like the last 2 days, but Elon Musk and Tesla developed a robot essentially that is supposed to be like a helper.
That's how it starts.
Like literally they're making it 125 pounds, and they've already said, because we want humans to be able to overpower it if needed. And apparently they've updated stuff as of like the last 24 hours. Like he's in it, like there's a lot of headlines about this, the new design and things like that.
What are the odds that Elon Musk is not actually a real human?
He's a real human. The thing is, there's a whole theory in this whole like space, which doesn't have anything to do with what I'm going to recommend, but there's a theory in sci-fi stuff that an AI takeover is inevitable.
Yes. And
what's going to happen is, I don't remember what the theory is called, but I heard weirdly Josh from Mythical Kitchen like talking about it one day, is that once it does become sentient and takes over or whatever, it will know who helped it get to that point. And so if you have not helped it to become the dominant thing, it will seek you out to take you out. Basically, it will know who helped it grow and become its own thing because it's all like essentially all knowing through whatever. And so if you don't actively help make AI become like its own entity, then it's that you're the enemy. I don't remember what that theory is called.
But isn't that wild to think about?
I mean, I don't think we're anywhere near that, but it is. So
I think it's the future.
Going back to my thing, I follow a lot of comic book art stuff because again, I enjoy that type of thing, and AI art is a big thing right now. Because there's like the Dolly thing where you can type in things, and it's really funny. I do follow those accounts with the weird things, but like there are some of these AI bots that can basically mimic human drawing, and like it is going to become what a lot of companies start doing to get free essential graphic design type stuff, and a lot of artists are very worried about that. Like, yeah, it's cool. They're like, but you're literally
eliminating an entire job force.
Yeah, and the creative mind behind it, like because and he showed some examples. It was a tweet thread. I don't know if I can find it again, but it was like these were all done by AI, but they're blatant like rip-offs of actual artists because it's taking images that it can process.
The AI is not being the creative force behind it.
It's just like you're ingesting it with all of these images, and it's like replicating something in that style. And they're like, this is very frustrating for our industry, which is about the comic industry and things like that. And they showed them, and like they looked like promotional material for like video games or comics and stuff, and it was all AI generated to the point where it was pulling from a specific type of artist who had a watermark in the bottom right, and in the AI thing it like did its own like artificial style like watermark. It didn't look right. It just like knew something. Like, oh, there's information
something
in that bottom
that's
corner
here.
Yeah, and so like put this weirdly deformed little box there, and that's a big thing going forward. Because you could do some really cool stuff with AI generated art, just typing in like really random things, and but it's gonna be weird to see how it goes. Anyway,
do you think
mine's not sci-fi at all.
Do you think we will see the AI take over in our lifetime?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay, I wondered because like my dad.
Yeah, I'm aware.
And my dad and I, we love going down our conspiracy theory.
Well, conspiracy theories used to be fun until people ruined them.
Okay, well, my dad and I do the fun conspiracy theories. Like, we know for a fact
like
Bigfoot lives in Arkansas, and you can't convince either one of us otherwise. Regardless, we have always said the zombie apocalypse, we mentally prepare for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that won't happen.
And like I already have an entire like game plan.
I almost watched World War Z the other night. I've never watched it.
I thought about watching it actually like last week.
It's Brad Pitt.
No, like I have an entire game plan that if the zombie apocalypse happens in like the next few years or whatever,
it won't.
I know exactly where to go, how to get there. I know what to do. I have a lot of survival skills. I'm really good with a gun. I know how to start my own fire from scratch. Like I know basic survival skills. So I know I'll be fine.
We've talked about this on the Patreon podcast before because Jake is basically useless.
Yeah, he can't shoot a gun. He can't fight.
He doesn't know anything about survival. And I'm not like an expert or anything, but I think I would be able to use my like ingenuity to figure stuff out. And like I'm familiar with firearms and weapons and things like that. And Jake is just like, I'm here, guys.
Yeah.
But no, I don't want to go off too far on this.
No, I'm not either. Just getting this out there. I always said that it would be the zombie apocalypse that we saw. And then when COVID-19 hit, I was like, this is it. The people that get COVID-19 are going to kind of recover from it. And then like later on, they're going to develop some kind of disease of like a lingering bacteria from it. And then that's going to turn them into zombies. Apparently that's not happening. No. The every day that passes, the closer we get to the future, the less I think it's going to be a zombie apocalypse that we see, and the more likely I think that we're going to run into like androids in our lifetime.
To be fair, though, you've also, on the way back from Utah, we watched 2 cartoons about this exact situation, which we talked about, I think, a couple weeks ago.
We did.
We watched Mitchell versus the Machines and Ron's Gone Wrong,
yes.
which are both about AI companions who go
out
off
of
the
the
rails.
2, watch Ron's Gone Wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
I think out of the everything we've talked about, AI is more likely than zombies. But
zombies not out of the question.
It is. My recommendation is not. I don't think it's considered sci-fi. Maybe it is because it's animals that can talk to each other. I don't know if that's considered.
That sounds.
But I mean, it's like so.
Well, maybe that's like fantasy.
Yeah. So it's a series called Stray Dogs, and you can buy the trade paperback, which is a like collected version of the comics. It's like 6 comics into one story. They're going to do more because it was really successful for a new franchise, and it's 5 comics. But they did these cool things where they did. The one thing I do like about comics is that they do variant covers for a lot of stuff, and so they'll get different artists do things. And what this series did was they would do like variant covers that are like homages or rips of like classic like thriller horror movies or whatever. And so they would do ones that looked like Silence of the Lambs, or do ones that looked like John Carpenter movies and things like that. Basically the pitch of this is, if you took, well, on the cover it's someone from Forbes, and it says it's what would happen if you took Silence of the Lambs and crossed it with All Dogs Go to Heaven. And that,
what a weird,
but it is, and like that's
weird combination.
That's a good description because it's about. I don't want to go too far into it, but the
you have to sell this to me.
The byline here that Image Comics wrote is, "It's scary being a new dog. In the suspenseful new series, readers meet Sophie, a dog who can't remember what happened. She doesn't know how she ended up in this house. She doesn't recognize any of these other dogs. She knows something terrible happened, but she just can't recall. And then it's like, wait, where's her lady? Now Sophie has to figure out where she is, what's happening, and how she's going to survive this. There's no such thing as a bad dog, just bad owners." Basically, this little dog just ends up in a house full of other dogs and doesn't really know how she got there or why, and none of them can remember any time before being in this house. And then as the story goes on, they start putting clues together, and it's like a suspense thriller type thing. And all of the dogs start to like piece together what happened to them previously before being in that house. It's good. It is good. The people who wrote it, it's like somebody who wrote like one of the My Little Pony comics and stuff. I wouldn't hold that against them. Like it is a unique like story and stuff. It's got some sad parts in it, but it's also like it's a good suspense story, and I'm definitely looking forward to more of them. I bought it on a whim. I was just at our local comic shop, and I was like, I've heard about this. I was like, I don't know anything about it, and she has it, and I like to support local places, and so I was like, you know what, I'll buy it. It's like $15, and we'll see. And I read it all in like one sitting, and it's really good. I think you'd like it. I think there's definitely. I do think you like it, but it is. There are some sad parts in it, but
I probably won't read it then.
It's good. It's really good. It's called Stray Dogs. Two words.
I'm a happy reader only.
And yeah, that's why you're reading about like robot apocalypses all the
time.
time.
But it's not. I'm not reading anything that's really sad that's going to make me cry.
I mean, this didn't make me cry.
Well, I don't like sad things that make me feel emotions.
Okay. Well. We got a little off the deep end on the book recommendations because one of us wanted to go down a rabbit hole of androids and AI.
I don't have anybody to talk about this with.
Literally, we live together, and I know, but you've not talked to me one time about thinking that COVID was going to be a zombie apocalypse or that AI apocalypse is going to be happening relatively soon.
Sometimes I worry that if I tell you my actual thoughts on things that you'll think that I'm actually crazy. Well,
I told you before we started that you need to go to the hospital to get your brain checked. But no, I don't think that the zombie one is happening anytime soon. I will say, just this is a comic tidbit that Robert Kirkman, who created The Walking Dead, he pitched it to Image Comics, and at the time they were like, "Oh, well, it's just a zombie story. Like, who cares? Like, that's not very exciting. Like, that's not anything new ground, you know, because there's zombie movies from like the 70s on up, and you know." And he just in the moment panicked and was like, "Oh, no. There's going to be like alien abductions, and there's going to be all these things, and you look back and there's going to be all these clues along the way that are like, oh, remember in issue 4 this happened and it led to this?" And they're like, "Oh, well, that's interesting. That's kind of a new take on things." And then they got like 40 issues in, and they're like, "Hey, didn't you say there was going to be..." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I just lied about all that." He's like, "I just made all that up." He's like, "Because I did not think you would buy the other one." And it ended up working out, and that's Image Comics bestseller, and he's now a part of the face of the company. He's one of the stakeholders.
He earned it.
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure, like, it's one of the most, if not the most successful comic franchise of all time at this point, probably. Just as far as how much money it's made.
Yeah.
Speaking of, way off topic, not anything to do with challenge.
Let's go.
There's these new like Walking Dead stories that are coming out that are like these like one-shot things. And in the first one, Terry Crews and Olivia Munn are in it.
What?
Yeah.
I love Terry Crews.
Yeah, and like that is like they're in this like one standalone like hour something Walking Dead universe thing where they're just like living in it. It's very strange casting, but I'm kind of interested to watch it.
I did not enjoy watching the Walking Dead TV show, but I would very seriously consider watching the one with Terry Crews and Olivia Munn.
Yeah, I like both of them, and so we'll see. Anyway, if you've enjoyed any of the last 20 minutes of this podcast, that's what the Patreon podcasts are like a lot of times. We answer questions and do things like that. Just kind of go on rabbit trails, talk about whatever we want. So patreon.com/SmashingHeads and again, if you have not listened to the episode that we put up on the main feed, that is Jake's last episode, and he brought his fiance on to be on there with us, but most of you don't know her name, so you'll learn it on the podcast. So we'll be back with you in just a few days if everything goes according to plan, but we are in the middle of housing movement
crisis
and stuff like that. It's just there's a lot of stuff happening and a lot of things going on, so we're doing these as we can as much as possible, and we'll be back with you next week.
Stay cute.